If I could have your attention, please, I'll call this meeting to order. This is the February meeting of the Wilson County Board of Zoning Appeals. We have a prepared agenda that's been published and advertised. Do we have anybody here this morning that wants their case deferred to another meeting, or do they wish to withdraw? If there are none, the agenda will stand as advertised. Just a reminder to everyone, please, if you would, make sure your phones are silenced. We have a court recorder here this morning that takes a record of our proceedings. That transcript is prepared at the expense of Wilson County. If you would like a copy of the transcript of a particular case, if you would please speak to the court recorder after our meeting is concluded. If you're going to speak to a case this morning, if you're the applicant or you just like to address the board in regard to a case, if you would please come to the podium. We'll allow the applicant representative to speak first, and then if we have others who wish to make comments, then we'll allow them some time to comment also. The staff has made recommendations in regard to each of the cases, and I need to state for the record that the board will consider those recommendations as we render our decisions. We are being televised this morning, so the television is on. So if you want to rewatch this meeting at a later date, it's available on Netflix or YouTube, on YouTube, Wilson County Television on YouTube. Okay, if you do plan to make a comment in front of the board this morning, you need to be sworn in. So if you would please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in front of this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. Before each case, we will have a time for the applicant and anyone else who wishes to speak to a case to make comments to the board. However, the state has mandated that before each public meeting, we must allow time for general comments. So, is there anyone here this morning who wishes to comment during the public comment period? Again, this is not for a particular case. This is for comments that you wish to be made in general to the board. Okay, if no one wishes to make comments during the public comment period, we'll close that portion of the meeting. Turning to the board, you were given or mailed the minutes from the January meeting, and you've had an opportunity to review those minutes. Does anyone know of any corrections that need to be made? If not, do I hear a motion that we approve the minutes from January?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor vote aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. Moving into the advertised agenda. Our first case is case 4152. Paul Pate is requesting a variance of 10 feet from the easement width requirement of 30 feet and a variance of 4 feet from the height requirement of 22 feet. The property became of record prior to July 10, 1974. The variance will allow the applicant to build an accessory structure that is 26 feet in height. The property is located at 495 Davis Road, parcel 16, Wilson County Tax Map 25. The property consists of 1.25 acres, zoned A1 agricultural. We'll get staff recommendations now on 4152.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a variance of 10 foot from the easement width requirement of 30 foot and a variance of 4 foot from the height requirement of 22 foot. This is an older lot of record as the property became of record prior to July 10th of 1974. Therefore, given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff can recommend approval of the easement width variance. There really isn't any connection between the said lot layout and the height of the accessory structure. And what I was talking about there is the landlocked status with the easement that I just suggested you grant a variance on. There's no relationship between that and this height request. While the implementation of the proposed height of this structure appears to pose little adverse effect to the area and surrounding neighbors, given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff cannot recommend approval of the height variance.
Okay, who should represent 4152 Paul Pate? Do you have anything you'd like to come tell the board, sir? If you would step to the podium, please.
I didn't quite understand. You said you could approve the height variance or cannot?
By the language in the ordinance, I cannot. This board has the purview
Let's
of
hold up just a
considering.
moment. Give me your name and address.
Paul
For the
Pate, 495 Davis Road.
Okay, that's fine. Now go ahead.
So the variance with a landlocked tract that's been in existence since 1974 or prior, we can recommend approval of that on the 10-foot variance width you're asking for from the 30-foot easement that we would typically require in those circumstances. So we're allowing your easement to be 20 foot instead of 30 foot. The building height, though, there's really no relationship to the landlocked status or grandfather status. And the letter of the ordinance states that you've got to be 22 foot, or you do have the ability to go above that for an accessory structure, but you've got to match the primary roof pitches and the building material of the primary structure on the property, which would be the house.
So is that, I mean, is that a possible yes or absolutely no?
There's a way you can do it if you match roof pitches and of the house and the building material of the house. You can go above 22 foot, but based on the request, I did not recommend approval.
Because the property, you can see on the map up there, oops, I'm not really quite sure why you would not approve that, because there's no houses within, there's only one house there to the left. For the blue areas, that's our property to the left. And there is some other properties and other houses, no other people live. Our driveway's 900 feet long.
And I did make note of that, the fact that on the ground, it would appear to pose little adverse effect to the area and surrounding neighbors. But given the language of the letter of the zoning ordinance, I can't recommend approval. It's up to this board if they choose to consider your testimony on hardship or why you would need the height variance.
The height is really where we can have.
Sir, I tell you what, let's get on with things here a little bit. Now, he's recommended approval of your easement variance.
Mhm.
The zoning law says you can only be 22 feet unless you're matching the character of the house. Okay?
Okay,
That's what the two roof pitches and the building material that I was talking about was about.
Okay. So the ordinance, we call it the law, says you gotta be 22 feet or less unless you're matching the house. You're wanting to be 26 feet, and that requires a variance from this board.
right.
Doesn't make any difference how close you are to anybody else, doesn't make any difference how far you're off the road. The ordinance doesn't speak to any of that. It just says 22 feet unless you're matching the character of the house. That's it.
Okay. So, I mean, this is a board that hears applications for variances, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
this is it.
So, but the difference is 4 feet,
It is.
and I don't really understand how that's of great concern, to be honest with you.
Because the ordinance says 22.
Okay.
It doesn't say 27. It
Is
says
that has to do with this structural building, or is that?
Don't know where they came up with 22.
Uh,
That's
So
why
now, once he makes his recommendation, can these folks vote yes or no for that?
we're going to here in a minute.
Okay, well, I'd like to ask you to vote yes.
Now, let me ask you
Yes,
this.
yes,
Can
sir.
you make it 22?
Well, the whole thing is to have a second, we're gonna do an attic truss, where we'll have a second floor for storage. You know, so without that, I don't know that we can get the storage area up there.
Got you. Okay. Anything else you want to tell the board?
Is there any type of, I mean, I'll try to help you as much as I can. Any type of hardship associated with the property or something that, because it falls way down a steep hill or something that causes this height variance to be necessary?
Well, we only have an acre or so there, we don't have a lot of storage, and we need that really the upstairs area for, and it's building for really storage area. You know, that's about it, really. I mean, to be perfectly honest, to be truthful, that's what we're gonna use it for, and that's why we needed it to be a little taller. And
Yes,
we're not
sir.
talking about, you know, we're not talking about tremendous amount of difference at 4 feet, so, but I appreciate your help, though, thank you. You know,
Okay. The board have any questions for the applicant? Does anyone else here wish to speak to 4152 Pate? Okay. If not, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Turning to the board for a motion or discussion.
When will we be told of, yes or no?
About 3 minutes, I suspect. Won't guarantee that. In regard to case 4152, I move we approve both variances. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion by the board. If there's no discussion, all in favor of the motion vote aye. Aye. Opposition vote no. And the ayes have it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Our next case is case 4153. Miyoshi Ware, on behalf of Jerry Young Sr., is requesting to have 2 dwellings on 1 tract of land. The existing mobile home burned August 26, 2023, and was replaced by a recreational vehicle. The property is located at 19,000 Central Pike, parcel 23 on Wilson County Tax Map 115. The property consists of .43 acres and is zoned A1 agricultural. We get staff recommendations now on 4153.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting to have 2 dwellings on 1 tract of land. The tract of land is approximately .48 acres or 20,200 square feet in size. This lot size can only accommodate a single residential lot and residence according to our current standards. Therefore, the property is unable to be subdivided into a manner that meets requirements under current standards for 2 separate tracts of land. The property has had 2 residents on it, and I may have to vary from my written comments here based on late information I've received. But the property has 2 residences and has had 2 residences since at least 2014. And I believe that's from my staff talking to the assessor's office about when the manufactured house that recently burned was placed on the property in 2014. The stick-built home was constructed in 1965. Again, based on county tax records, there was a mobile home brought onto the property in 2014. I've been given some, at least verbal evidence from the building inspector's office that their research with the tax assessor's office revealed that there possibly had been a manufactured house in addition to the house on the property since the early 1970s. If that's the case, I stand corrected there. But the mobile home did burn in August of 2023. They do have a existing RV in place of that mobile home on the property right now. I'm not sure, but I think their intent is to use that RV as the permanent residence going forward, to the point that they are trying to accommodate permanent connections to the sewer and water, as well as the required perimeter foundation that we have. If this board does grant this variance and they do choose to keep the RV instead of replacing it with a manufactured house, we do need to talk to them about getting a more permanent perimeter foundation put in around it than what they've done today, which is more or less just insulative panels. But beyond that, that's the information I have on the property.
Okay.
If I will say, if the manufactured house or a manufactured house had been on this property in addition to the 1965 built stick house since the early 1970s, our recommendation likely would have been to recommend approval based on the fact that it was grandfather status,
Okay.
rather than not recommended approval as I've got right now.
All right.
So I apologize for the confusion there. That's on us
Who's
and
here
our
to
research.
represent 4153? Where, excuse me.
It's Miyoshi Ware.
Yes, ma'am. And address, please?
My address
Yes.
is I live on 991 Cedar Grove Road. I work for Jerry Young Sr. He's at 110 Southside Park Drive.
Gotcha. Okay. And what would you like to tell the board, ma'am?
Well, on the procedure of the RV that's there now is on a lease. A gentleman from Florida is working here as construction. He needed somewhere to place his RV at the time. So we gave him a year lease until we decide what we wanted to do. We would like to put another mobile home there in place of the one that burnt. It's our intentions.
If I might respond to that for just a moment. We don't typically allow RVs as a permanent habitable structure unless they convert it to a permanent habitation, meaning they would have to put a permanent perimeter foundation around it. Now, that can be concrete board panels, or it cannot be a mobile home skirt. It can be concrete board panels, it can be concrete block, it can be brick or some mixture thereof. But for him to be there longer than about 2 weeks at a time in the RV, we would consider that a violation of the zoning ordinance. So he's either got the choice of making it a permanent, or at least semi-permanent, for his year lease, or moving.
Okay.
Do you know what year the single wide was placed on the lot?
It was placed in 1975.
1975. Okay. Anything else you'd like to tell the board?
Well, are we allowed to replace another mobile home there at that location?
That's what we're fixing to decide here shortly.
And then secondly, if the camper can stay, we're looking at, his lease is up in October. We have to put a permanent foundation around it.
If
For him
that's to be the
maintain
structure
the
going
lease.
forward.
Well, right now, they're saying that, RV/camper, normally about 2 weeks is all they allow. So
Supposed to.
accordingly,
I mean, they're all up and down that street,
I cannot
same
speak
way,
to all
but,
the
yeah,
problems
but,
out there.
and I don't care about those, those deals of mine, but I'm just saying.
And I think, if the RV were to stay, it would have to be treated like a mobile home. It would have a permanent foundation and
Yes,
so on
sir.
and so forth. Let me ask you, is there a septic approval on this lot, Karen?
Septic approval, I would have to do some research with the state in regards to that. She has not applied. This came about with an electrical inspection. That's how we found. There wasn't a complaint. It was an electrical inspection that came in from the state.
I would suspect there was some form of septic there if there had been a manufactured house there prior.
I would have to check with the state.
Yeah.
Well, there's no doubt both of those dwellings have been there quite some time.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I know 2014 is in error by a few decades because
Well, I'm curious if we just got misinformation from the tax assessor's office about the last time the manufactured house was replaced, was 2014.
well, my memory fades
Yeah.
after about 40 years. I know that single wide was there a long time ago.
Yes, sir.
And it hadn't been
Mr.
replaced.
Chairman. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think it'd been replaced. No, they're saying it's been replaced. I don't think it's ever replaced.
Okay. We may have just gotten bad information.
There has to be a septic on the property, whether there's records from the state or not, but the RV was hooked up to septic when we went out
Gotcha.
and inspected it.
Does the board have any other questions for the applicant?
So are both dwellings one septic, to your knowledge?
I think it is, but I can't 100% guarantee it, but I think it is connected
To the same?
to the same septic. Back then, it was kind of.
Yeah, I think that's the key. Back then, that's probably the way they.
We have had no issue with it, the septic tank or any of the hookups there whatsoever. And the mobile home caught on fire from electrical fire in the bedroom from appliances. I think you might have the report there. For
We
that
do.
too.
We do. Other questions from the board?
Probably have a question for Tom. Help me understand, was the mobile home that's there in the 70s or 2014, was that a violation then?
If it was barely a violation because we adopted zoning in 1974.
But we are asking for two dwellings to be on one parcel land. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I'm making sure.
Regardless of when the other one was put there.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And we do not allow that currently,
Exactly.
but this may be grandfathered in, so. Correct, Mr. Chairman?
it's close. It is close. Okay, other questions from the board? Okay. If not, does anyone else here wish to address 4153 Ware. Did you say Weir?
Where?
Ware, I got it right then. Okay. Anyone else here wish to address this case? If not, we'll close the public comment period and then turning to the board. Any discussion or a motion?
I'll make a motion to deny the request based on staff recommendation.
Have a motion to deny based on staff recommendations. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, can we, just for a second,
Sure.
and maybe I'm wrong, Tom, did you say that if the trailer had been there in 75, that you would recommend approval?
Likely,
Likely.
yeah.
So, I mean, so how do we take your recommendation?
I mean, I was going based off of
I
the
mean,
information I have.
understand that, but
Yeah,
do we have new information today?
yeah.
that we
I mean,
didn't have?
and I told you, I would likely have changed my recommendation from cannot to can.
So then can we
Mhm.
do a motion based on your recommendation?
If you
when
feel
it's-
that the
got a
evidence that's
motion on
been
the floor
presented
right
to,
now.
Okay, I understand.
if you feel the evidence presented to you is valid, I suppose you can.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? Yeah, I think at the very least, if we were to vote for, if we were to have a motion for, to allow, we would probably need to stipulate something about the sewer, about the septic. you
Right.
know. But anyway, I have a motion on the floor and it's been properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed vote no.
No.
Well, let me say, show of hands. All in favor vote aye. 1, 2. Opposed vote no. 3. Motion fails. Now, the floor is now open for another motion. I'll move that excuse me, go ahead.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
My concern is we're voting here the ordinance says there can never be more than one structure on the lot. And I know trailer burn and all that, but I just don't want to be opening something where we start this type of variance. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Any further discussion or motion? In regard to 4153, I'll move we approve the request with the stipulation that the applicant has to provide a proper state of Tennessee septic system approval. Do I have a second?
A second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Do we need to address the permanent or semi-permanent type foundation on it now?
It's part of the ordinance.
That's okay.
Right, Tom?
Yes, it
Okay.
is. And
Anything that goes
they
back.
need to,
has to be-
they just need to follow up with my zoning inspection department
Right.
about
But
complying
I
with
want
that.
it, I want it clearly made in the motion that part of the motion is the septic approval has to be part of the approval.
And I will tell you that in regards to that, when you go she'll have to get a building permit for the RV, that's
we-
required.
I just think it's important that the septic be addressed,
I understand.
okay? Okay, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor vote aye. Opposition vote no.
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 Okay, all in favor raise your right hand. Got 3 yes, opposed no. 2 no, motion passes. Okay. Where did Miss Ware go? There you are. Okay, we're done. You're complete.
So you received approval. You do need to go and talk with the zoning office about making that RV compliant if you wish to keep it there for the time being. And then you possibly are gonna need to go talk to the building inspection department about getting a building permit for whatever you're gonna put there permanently, along with getting septic approval.
Okay. That was, let me make sure my paperwork's right here. 53. That was 53. We're ready for 4154. Robert Ham is requesting a variance regarding the accessory size requirement of 2,000 feet. The variance will allow the applicant to build an accessory structure that is 2,400 square feet with a total of 1,420 square foot for a lean-to on each side. The property is located at 5350 Franklin Road, parcel 34.02 on Wilson County Tax Map 93. The property consists of 5.76 acres and is zoned A1 agricultural.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a variance of 400 square feet regarding the accessory size maximum requirement of 2,000 square feet. I did not put this in my, well, I did put it in my comments, so I'll get to it. The zoning ordinance states that the accessory structures on A1 zone property may not exceed 3% of the total lot area with a maximum size of 2,000 square feet. And that's for a accessory structure that does not have a primary residential structure on the same parcel. On field review, the area staked out for the structure appeared to be closer to 2,800 square feet. So staff would like some clarification from the applicant on the size of the proposed structure he or she is proposing to implement on the property for this accessory, so that we can make sure that if you do grant a variance, it's for the right amount. Therefore, given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff cannot recommend approval.
Okay. Who's here to represent 4154 Robert Ham?
That's me, Robert Ham.
Yes, address please.
I'm at 210 Bluegrass Circle in Lebanon.
Okay, and what would you like to tell the board?
And it's gonna be a 40 by 60 shop with the two lean-tos, so,
Is that total? That's
Total.
total.
yes,
So the 40 by 60 includes the two lean-tos?
it does not.
Okay,
So
so,
that's not total.
okay, so what, how big are the lean-tos?
I think it was in there, so I wasn't aware when I applied that they counted, but,
Okay,
so I will be, I guess, requesting a little bigger then.
okay. We just noticed from the staking,
Yeah,
we
yes,
kind
I
of,
understand.
How big are the lean-tos?
They're 12 by 60 on each side. I'm not that good at math in my head, but
So that's 720 and 720 is 1440. And 40 by 60 is what, 2,400?
yes.
yes, sir.
So
3840, does that sound right?
that's what I got. So you need a 1,840 foot, no, excuse me, I'm wrong. What's the
Yeah.
base, Tom?
Yes.
2,000.
2,000.
So 1,840 would be right.
Okay. Now, does that clarify what you were asking, Tom?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, what else would you like to tell the board, sir?
I don't really have anything else to tell. Do I need to know what it's used for, or do y'all need to know what it's used for? Or
Is there a residence on the,
there's not yet. No.
there's not yet. Okay, and
Do you plan on putting a residence?
Yes, I do.
What, any idea what time frame?
Well, got kids starting college. I'm thinking
Okay.
2 years, but it could be 4.
And we do require them to sign an affidavit that clearly stipulates that they understand it's for personal use, not for commercial purposes on residential property.
And how big was this tract? 5 acres?
5.7.
Okay. So if you were to get approval, all the storage would be inside or under the lean-to,
Yes, sir.
and it's for personal use only.
Yes.
No commercial, no heating and air business or whatever it is.
I have a lot of stuff. That is it.
Okay. The board have other questions for the applicant? Okay. Does anyone else here wish to address 4154 Ham? Okay. If not, we'll close the public hearing in regard to this case and turn to the board for a motion or discussion. Okay, don't y'all make all the motions. You're welcome to chime in.
You're doing such an excellent job with it.
In regard to case 4154, I'll move we approve the variance with the following stipulations. There's no outside storage other than in the building or under the lean-to. There is no commercial use at all. And we're granting this based on your testimony that you will be building a single-family dwelling there in the next few years. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion by the board. If not, all in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposition vote no. The ayes have it. Thank you. Our next case is 4155. Mike Niemer is requesting to build a shop to be used for welding and fabrication. The property is located at 605 McCrary Road, parcel 3.03 on Wilson County Tax Map 122. The property consists of 5.9 acres, zone A1 agricultural. We get staff recommendations now on 4155.
Okay, give me just a second. The applicant is requesting to build a shop to be used for welding and fabrication. As you stated, this is not a listed use or use permissible on appeal for the A1 Agricultural Zone District. Therefore, given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff cannot recommend approval. The board may consider that there is a commercial business operating on A1 property immediately adjacent and in front of it on McCrary Road. I think it's called Lackey Automotive, that was approved for car repair in 2007 by the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Okay. Just as I think if we go back and read the transcript of that Lackey case, that is supposed to be a very small, low impact operation. And I was by there, or I've been by there several times. It looks to have gotten completely beyond the intent of the approval.
We'll be happy to go back and look at the minutes again.
Well, I thought it was a pretty low-key thing, if I remember correctly. Right. Okay. Who's here to represent 4155 Mike Niemer out on McCrary Road? Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Mike Nimmer, 3177 Beckwith Road.
And what would you like to tell the board, sir?
Our intent is to use this property for a business. With the adjacent property, like we were just discussing, we thought it was worth requesting the variance. So, is there any questions or more information I could provide for you?
Board have any questions for the applicant?
What size business will it be as far as employees, or how many?
The everyday, 5 days a week people will pretty much be myself, business partner, and our wives. Occasionally, we'll have some guys come in there to do some work, but we don't do a ton of fabrication work. 2 or 3 cars, it's 2 or 3 additional employees come in there per day on average. We'll never have more than, I'd say, 10 employees in a day.
No more than 10?
Correct.
And your day-to-day operations will be four employees, is that what you're saying? You 2 guys and your wives, is that right? 4?
Yes, sir. And it's even that, I'm kind of guessing high. Usually we're out on the job sites. We don't come to the office every single day.
Did you ever consider rezoning?
We're trying to purchase the property, and the rezoning was a 90-day process, and the current sellers don't want to wait that long. So with the adjacent property, we decided with the variance would be the fastest. And if there's any major objections, if the neighbors don't like us being there, we're loud, whatever, there's a chance to get rid of us in the future also. They're not set in stone. It's kind of what I was thinking. I might be wrong. I don't know.
I don't
how
understand
zoning
that
works.
comment, but
Typically, the use approvals run with the land unless this board establishes a time limit that you have to come back in for.
Okay.
normally people would not want, nor would if they have to get any financing, the banks aren't going to want a approval that has a time limit on it. Okay, so the approvals normally run with the land.
Okay.
So normally, once it's done, it's done.
Okay.
But this is not an approved use in this zone, is the reason I asked that question. It's not an A1 approved use. Now, I realize there's a special use permit in play in front of that parcel, But as you may have heard me mention, I think when that was approved, it was not intended to be anything like what it has evolved into over the last 15 years. Does the board have any questions for the applicant? Or any other questions? Okay, if not, does anyone else here wish to address 4155? Yes, ma'am. Would y'all have a seat, please? Let this lady come forward. Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
My name is Brandy Trout. I live at 615 McCrary Road. It's the property adjacent to it. As you said, the Lackeys have gotten much bigger. When we moved there 12 years ago, it was barely used. Now it's a much bigger usage than what it was initially. Our issue would be the flooding impact that it would have. 5,000 square foot building plus whatever lot. So when you've been to our home after a flood, that area becomes like a lake, basically. You can't get in, you can't get out. If there was a fire at the welding fabrication, how would it get put out? You can't get to it. And also the drainage. There is no drainage in that area. So how would that impact our property? Would it cause it to flood more? Is there any plans in place for the drainage so that it's not directed more towards our home? That area back there is where the water goes initially. The water comes under 840 and goes behind that property and comes around into a little creek, and then it starts to flood all the single-family residences that are in front of it. And then also, as you said, if you're rezoning it commercial, how does that affect the residences in front of it?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else here wish to address 4155? Okay, if not, we'll close that public comment period and turning to the board for a motion or some discussion.
I make a motion we deny based on staff recommendation.
Have a motion to deny 4155 based on staff recommendations. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
Is there any way that we could get a look at the drainage area? If they look at it out of there, there is some drainage issues out there in that particular area, especially the flooding and all that. Is there something that we could?
I realize there's quite a few issues out there with the drainage, but this is a use question.
If you were recommending approval, it would certainly be within your purview to require site plan approval at commercial standards or whatever, but this is a recommendation for denial, so I'm not sure what else we could do.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor of the motion, vote aye. Aye. Opposition, vote no. And the ayes have it. Thank y'all for coming. Okay, our next case is case 4156, Doug Manhart, requesting a variance of 12 feet from both the north and south side setback requirements of 20 feet and a variance of the lot width requirement of 125 feet. The variances will allow the proposed house to be 8 feet from both the north and side property lines. The property is located at 926 Point View Circle, Lot 39. Port Spencer is Group A, Parcel 20 on Wilson County Tax Map 270. The property consists of approximately 16,600 square feet and is on A1 agricultural. Its staff recommendations now on 4156.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a variance of 12 feet from both the north and south yard setback requirements of 20 feet and a variance from the lot width requirement of 125 feet. This is an older lot of record, with the property becoming of record August 14th, 1972. Therefore, given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff can recommend approval.
Okay, who's here to represent 4156, Manhart?
Patrick Hayes, 909 Springhouse Circle.
Yes, sir. What would you like to tell the board?
I'm just here to represent Mr. Manhart. He had a conflict that couldn't be avoided.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for the applicant? I'm assuming this is down on the lake.
Well, it's not, yeah, it's close. The lake is just to the north west of it
Okay,
there.
That's, those are boat docks out there.
Yeah, yeah. It touches,
I got you. Okay, but it's one of those little developments now.
yes, sir.
Gotcha. Okay. Does the board have any questions for the applicant? Okay. And if not, does anyone else here wish to address 4156 Manhart? Okay. Close our public comment period and turn into the board for a motion or discussion on 4156.
I make a motion off the staff recommendation.
Have a motion to approve based on staff recommendations. Do we have any discussion?
I'll second it.
Oh, excuse me. Did I miss a second?
You did.
Yes, I did. Okay. Have a motion and a second to approve based on staff recommendations. Any discussion? If not, all in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposition vote no. And the ayes have it. Thank you, sir. Our next case is case 4157. Sergio Motto is requesting to use the property as a contractor storage yard. The property is located at 4561 Murfreesboro Road, parcel 33 on tax map 124. The property consists of .46 acres and is zoned A1 agricultural. We get staff recommendations on 4157.
Mr. Chairman, this applicant is requesting to use the property as a contractor storage yard. This is not a listed use on appeal or use permitted in the A1 zoned district within the zoning ordinance or zoning regulations. Therefore, given the language in the zoning regulations, staff cannot recommend approval. Staff will note that our office and building inspection office has received concerns from neighbors regarding the current and future condition of this property, and as a result of this case, has been brought before the board in response to those complaints. At least that's our understanding. Mr. Attorney, I do have some pictures that a neighbor walked in with. He's unable to attend today, was wanting to know if I could submit the pictures for the record. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, did you get to see these? Y'all get to see these now?
No.
Of course, we have the pictures that we took on site for our field review as well, so. But these are pictures a neighbor brought.
Let me circulate them, Tom. They're down here.
We got some of us.
Okay.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, we
I'm
got
sorry, they made
multiple
copies of them.
Yeah, I'm about my.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a copy.
Neil was asleep there for a minute.
Please don't say that.
If you'll just pass the photos themselves down to Karen, I guess, for the file.
Here's some additional pictures.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
We already have photos submitted by your office.
yes. And the photos this gentleman wanted
Okay.
circulated.
Who's here to represent 4157 Motto?
Sergio Moda,
Yes, sir.
4561.
What's your name and address again?
Sergio Moda,
And address?
4560, well, I live at 208 Redbud Drive,
Okay. In what city?
Lebanon.
Okay, that's fine. All right. What would you like to tell the board?
I wasn't aware that I couldn't store anything before I bought the property, but basically I bought it to store all our trailers and bobcats and equipment and all that. And before I bought it, I didn't know until I received the notice. It was brought to my awareness that I had to come before the board for approval.
What kind of storage is that?
Well, that was when we were cleaning all the property up. It used to be all sticks out there, and we went in and knocked everything down.
How long have you been on the property or owned the property?
We closed on it in end of August, and we've been working on it since then.
End of August of 2023?
Yes, sir.
Did you bring in this material?
We either threw it away or burned everything we could. Right now, it is just gravel out there where we try to level the property out as much as we could. It's still sloped, but we just basically flattened it up.
Is this material that you brought in?
Yes, but that's all hauled off now.
And then is there a residence on the property?
There is a residence. It's not livable. It was an old
There's a residential structure.
Sir?
There's an old home there, but does not appear to be occupied.
Okay.
Does the board have questions for the applicant?
Outside of the debris which you may or may not be cleaning up, what do you have? You see, you brought trailers, like how
So-
many trailers, or maybe this would be for, how many trailers or vehicles or,
We have about 6 trailers, and we have about 6 trucks. A Bobcat, a Mini X, and then we have aluminum that we build patio covers with, that will all, and rows of screen that we'll all have stored there. And basically, we've thrown all that away, we brought gravel in, not knowing, and we have everything in the back.
the reason I ask that is sometimes you're allowed under a home occupation, but obviously this far exceeds, anything that would be under a home occupation.
Well, I thought home occupation would have made it not legal, that's why we didn't.
Well, I mean, I
Yeah.
say that sometimes you're allowed one, I mean, Tom
Yeah.
could allow.
Well, you would
one or
also
two
have to,
vehicles.
you would also technically have to live at the location
Exactly.
or have someone living there.
This is nowhere near.
Right, that's what I'm saying, that he far exceeds anything.
Does the board have other questions for the applicant?
I do. We've been handed a bunch of pictures, some of them are duplicated. It looks like these were taken on February the 12th. Are you saying that is not there anymore?
No, that is not there.
It's been cleaned up.
I may have pictures of it. Or I could have more pictures taken, I wouldn't have.
Well, I don't, irregardless of the
That's all right.
pictures, this is not a use that is
Right.
allowed in the zone.
Regardless of the debris, the
Other guy,
6 trucks, 6 trailers, and
the guy submitted.
Tom, have we already cited this as a violation and it's,
I believe so.
Yes, we have.
are there any other questions from the board for the applicant? If not, does anyone else here wish to address 4157? Come forward, please. If you would have a seat, sir, we'll hear from these other gentlemen. Y'all come forward one at a time, if you would.
My name's Larry Larson. I live at 112 Chicken Road, which is right directly behind.
Yes, sir, what would you like to tell the board?
I have some more pictures that are as of yesterday. If you'd like to take a look at them. It's all residential around there. I've been there at 112 Chicken Road for 37 years. And it's always been real nice, clean. I keep my place up real nice. And now it looks like there's a dump. I can sit in my living room, look out the side window, and seeing all kinds of, it's just very unsightly. There's concrete stuff just dumped right at the property lines. It's just, highly visible. I'm getting trash and stuff blowing in on my property. The noise level, I had a real nice barrier between me and Highway 231. Now it's open all the way to 231, so I'm getting all the noise pollution and
How many's down?
there's backup alarms and stuff going off and on all day out there. They're not in there every day, all day long, but it's like you're saying, since August, we've been listening to equipment and backup alarms and stuff all day long. I just retired, I'm at home all the time, and it's really ruined my whole way of life, actually. I'm sitting out by the pool, listening to equipment and backup alarms and metal flying around. And they're also bringing in material off of other jobs and using it as a burn site. There's one big pile that's in there right now of the stumps and stuff left and more of the stuff they brought in and burned. It's a residential area, in my opinion, it's no place for a commercial lot, period.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, would you like to make a comment?
Well, I lived there all my life.
Add name and address, please.
4545 Musselburgh Road, and my name's Jerry Brown.
Yes, sir.
I lived there all my life, and it's a new, a lot of people there, but people are passing out now. And my mother just passed this couple of years, and I became owner of my house next door. And there's a lot of racket there, and a lot of people in and out, a lot of traffic, flows on the highway. We've been having a lot of accidents there. out there in the neighborhood, just, you know, like last year and like this year started off. But the noise is racket. I work in a warehouse, and sometimes I'm woken up by the noise next door. And the water flows on my property sometimes when it's rained so hard. And there's been trash on my property too, floating over there.
Thank you, sir. All right, anyone else wish to address this case? If not, we'll close the public comment period. And we'll turn to the board for discussion or a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion, to have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. We offer an amendment that we ask staff and the county attorney to prioritize the enforcement of this case. Do you accept my amendment?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any other discussion, or any discussion on the motion and the amendment? Public comment's been closed, sir. If there's no discussion on the motion, all in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposition vote no. The ayes have it. Okay, that concludes our regular agenda. Tom, do we have any housekeeping we need to take care of?
No, I have a question about the last motion in terms of what prioritizing enforcement might look like. Where are we at on zoning violations right now, Karen? First?
I think he's only had, a first letter, the first violation letter.
We typically
and
give
that's-
someone the first letter with 30 days to address it, and obviously he's come at least with some attempt to address it by appealing to you as a body. And then he would get a second letter with another 30 days to address the violations, which would effectively be
Well,
removing the operation and cleaning it up at this point since he's lost his appeal.
Tom, this board has some administrative authority over the actions of the staff, and that amendment, in my mind, asks you to
Going to proceed to court?
proceed, as quickly as possible.
Okay,
As
that's what
diligent
I wanted to get a little clarification on. All right.
All right. Anybody have anything else we need to discuss? If not, we're adjourned.